This is the Peter Jackson VFL podcast.
The Peter Jackson VFL podcast, another week, another set of amazing results and another look ahead to what will be a magnificent weekend in the Peter Jackson VFL. But first, we look back. Michael leads in the chair for Peter Mercado, who's just about finished eating strawberries and cream and sipping on champagne. And Anthony Stangetz, of course, is in the chair. Anthony, well, same time, same place, same topic, really. Terrific footy again on the weekend.
Oh, it was, and I've never seen a top 8 change so many times in such a short time frame. Third week in a row, we've got a new team on top of the ladder. We've got teams going in and out of the top 8 on a weekly basis. Those draws that have occurred this season make things pretty interesting, because sometimes you have that draw and you think, oh, that's good because it'll give me a 2-point advantage and I won't have to worry about percentage. For those teams trying to get into the top 8, well, your Sandringhams, your Essendons and your Richmonds, they've all got that 2 points, so percentage comes right back into it. So there's all these little battles between a certain number of teams across the ladder, and it makes it entertaining on a weekly basis in the VFL.
All right, let's run through some of the results. Let's start with Richmond and Casey. The Tigers bounced back nicely with a pretty solid effort.
They did. The Tigers 35-point victors over Casey. Liam McBean up in the forward line with 5 goals, and Nick Wynn, their leading possession getter for the Tigers. Werribee, talking about Tigers, 22-point victors over North Ballarat. Big 7-goal final term, getting them over the line. Ben Warren heading to the top of the VFL goal kicking with 4 goals. Essendon, cliffhanger result for them, 3-point victors over the Box Hill Hawks, and we'll be chatting to their leading forward, Al Kefford, later on in the show. It was Port Melbourne, big second half by them, kicking 7 goals in the second half compared to just the 1 goal for Sandringham, and a great result for them. 29-point victors over Sandringham. Geelong going down by 52 points to Footscray. Footscray, great start by them and moving to the top of the ladder. And the Northern Blues, great final term of action heard on VFL radio last weekend. And the Northern Blues, 18-point victors over Collingwood. Michael, your highlight from... Oh, actually, we should have a quick look at the ladder first, the ever-changing Peter Jackson VFL Bailey Ladders ladder.
Well, I wasn't there to see it, but Footscray must have been very impressive. They skipped right on past all comers to go top of the ladder, and they're in 36 points with a better percentage than Port Melbourne, who are also on 36 points. Box Hill on 34 points in third position. Werribee and Williamstown tied on 32 points each in fourth and fifth position, and only 5% separating them. Collingwood and the Northern Blues in 6th and 7th. There's significant percentage there. Collingwood 109 to the Northern Blues 84. Sandringham, Essendon, they're both in 26, both on 26 points, I should say, and only 1 percentage point separating them. It's tight for that 8th position at the moment, and then certainly not out of it by any stretch. North Ballarat, Geelong on 24 points apiece. Richmond back on to 18. Casey 12. Coburg 12. Frankston 8. And Bendigo yet to register a win in 2014. So she's tight. There's plenty of opportunity for everyone to be involved late in the year. Oh,
there definitely is. And looking back over the weekend, you'd have to say not too many teams get a 10-goal to zip start on Geelong at Simmons Stadium. Unbelievable kickoff for Footscray, and no wonder they're sitting on top of the ladder. They had all the form to kick off that game. Good fight back by Geelong, but the damage had been done when a team's 60 points out on you just before half-time, and you're only scoring your first goal of the game just before the half-time siren. Footscray are the form team, and later on the show we'll look forward to previewing their top 4 clash up against Box Hill on ABC TV this weekend.
Yeah, plenty to look forward to. Now, before we get Al Kefford on the line, let's have a quick look back at the highlight of the weekend. And yours?
Oh, it'd have to be the 10-goal start for Footscray. That's unheard of against the Cats over recent years. And Clay Smith returning, he got a couple of goals. Liam Jones up in the forward line. And I think one of the players that you haven't heard too much of him, hasn't been a regular in the Western Bulldogs team this year, but Brett Goods, he's ever reliable at VFL level, and he's been in some great form over recent weeks. Let's hope he gets another shot at the Western Bulldogs AFL side in coming weeks. But Brett Goods has been in great form, and a reason why Footscray have won 7 on the trot.
Yeah, they're going beautifully. For mine, I just couldn't go past the Northern Blues. Got to see them live. Terrific performance by everyone involved. But I do want to single out a man we're going to actually catch up with later on in the program, Tom Wilson, who came out after half-time and was in everything. Just got them going when they needed it most, and they were terrific. So they find themselves contending again, and they would have been just that little bit behind the 8 ball had they gone down to the Pies on the weekend. Yeah,
Cameron Wood still in great form. I think the third time that he's had 60-plus hit-outs. Jack Anthony against his old team. Watson up in the forward line. And Jeffy Garlett, from all reports, 14 disposals in the final quarter, helping get him over the line. And a ripping goal to boot as well. So terrific performance by everyone at the Blues, and not bad from the Bombers either. We're going to catch up with Al Kefford. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, Darren Boyd here. Catch me and the rest of the Grandstand team every Saturday from 1 on ABC 1 for live coverage of the Peter Jackson VFL. Each week we broadcast a featured VFL game ad-free. Plus we look at the other state leagues and speak to a number of special guests. We've got every angle covered. For details of ABC's upcoming matches, check out the VFL website and also follow us on Twitter at VFLABC. We'll look forward to your company every Saturday live from 1 for the Peter Jackson VFL on ABC 1.
Through VFL.com.au, this is the Peter Jackson VFL podcast.
Welcome back to the Peter Jackson VFL podcast. Michael Leeds in the chair with Anthony Stangitz, and the Bombers are just starting to find their mojo. It's been a good little period for them after a really good win at Werribee, and it continued on the weekend, beating the reigning premiers, the Box Hill Hawks. And one of the stars of the day was Al Kefford, who snagged 4 majors, and he has been kind enough to join us on the VFL podcast. Thanks for your time, Al.
No worries, guys. Thanks for having me.
The weekend seems like a pretty good place to start. You must have felt like you had a fairly good day out with 4 majors.
Yeah, it was pretty pleasing to get on the end of a couple and convert my chances. But it was a great win by the boys to obviously knock off last year's premiers, and we're sort of starting to hit a bit of form, which is good.
I'll come back to the win on the weekend in just a moment, but I want to go back to the win you guys had against Werribee at Werribee. It was full of spirit, and it just seems like things have continued to roll on from there.
Yeah, I think that sort of started a little bit of a purple patch that we're having at the moment. We obviously went into that game knowing it's going to be tough to knock them off at their home ground, and they had a pretty strong side in with a fair few North players and some really good VFL listed players. And I think we sort of just played a really good 4-quarter effort and sort of served it up to them and just managed to hang on after they kicked a few goals late. But I think we've sort of played our best footy when we've come in with the attitude of being the hunters, and we've been able to sort of string a few wins together. But that was huge for the confidence of the group for sure. And
then the last quarters have been terrific. Obviously, the Storm home couldn't quite get the win, but managed to salvage 2 points against Frankston. Again, a really tough hit out against one of the premier sides in the competition on the weekend.
Yeah, you said it right. We sort of were disappointed with how we played for 3 quarters against Frankston, but we managed to get a couple of points out of that game, and then on the weekend to sort of have that 4-quarter effort against such a strong side was really big, and we're just hoping we can take that form into this weekend's game against Port Melbourne.
And Al, when you signed up to the Essendon Football Club at VFL level this year, could you imagine that halfway through the year you would have played every single senior game for them?
No, I've been pretty surprised with how it's all panned out. But the coaches have all been wrapped with how I've gone, and I've just sort of managed to get in and play my role, and they've been really happy with me. So it's been a massive surprise, and I'm really enjoying how it's all going. So I hope I can hold my spot for the rest of the year. That'd be great.
And what are some of the key things that you've been able to learn this year, getting that regular senior VFL experience?
Well, I think the main thing is just sort of staying in the game the whole time and keeping my concentration up for the whole time that I'm out in the field. I think at the start of the year and with the practice games, I probably didn't work very hard defensively, and that's been something that I've really improved over the year. In sort of just getting up the ground and filling up so we can try and catch teams out the back. But just in terms of structures and setting up as well, obviously it's just a massive step up in terms of professionalism from the footy I was playing last year. So they're the sort of big things, and I've just been able to sort of hang on and play some decent footy amongst that as well.
And they don't often say it's a dangerous game being a forward, but probably over the last month you've probably had to watch your back a fair few times with young Sean Edwards taking a few big high screamers over the last month, and you don't want to be that person as a stepping stone in one of the photos or vision.
Yeah, that's right. When Shawnee's down the forward line, I just try and get out of his way and let him fly at it, because he's a pretty exciting player.
And from here on in, it's a pretty tough month ahead. You've obviously got some good form going in and some belief, but Port away, Footscray, Willie and Collingwood, that's a fairly solid block. You find yourselves right in the race for the top 8, though. You must be excited about what's ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we had in a meeting a few weeks ago, we just sort of looked at the games we had coming up and figured we needed to win a bit more than half of those to sort of get into the 8. And I think traditionally Essendon in the VFL finished the year pretty strongly. I know last year they sort of came home pretty strongly into the finals. So we're just trying to emulate that, and it's good to have some good form. But we sort of feel that when we play our best footy, we can compete with every side. I think the Port Melbourne game, when we played them the first time, we were sort of really with them right up until the second half of the last quarter. So we feel like our best footy is as good as anyone's in the competition. So as long as we come with that on game day, I think we can give most sides a run for their money.
And you probably look at the Essendon VFL side this year, and one of the keys for them has been that consistency of the VFL listed players like yourself, Benny Dusha, the captain. Daniel Coughlin's probably one that's come in this year and surprised, but I think 7 of the top 9 players to play the most games have all been those VFL listed ones to give you some consistency. Yeah,
you're spot on. I think that's really important for both the performance of the team and just in terms of their development, to be able to be exposed to that level of footy week in, week out. And Douche is, I think, one of the stars of the VFL. He's just that consistent, and every time we've needed a lift, he's just been at the coal face. And Cogs, as you mentioned, it's just been super this year. He's been able to have a really big impact in games and kick a few goals as well. And it's been awesome for him as well.
And when you got the runs on the board, Al, kicking 22 goals this season, do you get the opportunity to boss some of the likes of Tommy Bellchambers when he comes down to the forward line and wants to have a bit of a rest as the ruckman to tell him where to go, not to get in your path?
Yeah, I try to. I try and get Tommy and Pearsy when they're down forward and get them up the ground a little bit. But a lot of the times it's the smaller boys like Corey or Shawnee. They want the square to themselves and they try and kick me out. But it's good to have. We've got a sort of good spread of goal kickers, and I've just sort of been able to get on the end of a few, which has been good.
And you've got some strength in the height department, Al. Bellchambers, Tugliaboo and Kefford. It's not a bad setup to rotate through that forward 50. It must give you a few options if one of you is down or you want to go and have a run in the ruck. You're not short on options.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think I've played a little bit of footy in the ruck in the past, and this year with Fraser Thurlow going down, I've had to do a bit of that as well. But we do have that option, and I think Tags has been really super as our first choice ruckman this year, and it's a bit tough because I do like to stay forward as much as possible, but when I get in there, my job's just to compete and give our mids a crack at it.
Well, you've got every reason to enjoy being in that forward 50, leading the Bombers goal kicking with 22 after 12 rounds. You're in ripping form, as is the team. Al, thank you for your time, and we wish you all the best this week and for the rest of the year.
Thanks for that, mate. Have a good one. Cheers.
Al Kefford from the Bombers joining us there. 22 goals. He's in some ripping form. We're going to take a quick break on the Peter Jackson VFL podcast. Back with more right after this.
Hi, Darren Boyd here. Catch me and the rest of the Grandstand team every Saturday from 1 on ABC 1 for live coverage of the Peter Jackson VFL. Each week we broadcast a featured VFL game ad-free. Plus we look at the other state leagues and speak to a number of special guests. We've got every angle covered. For details of ABC's upcoming matches, check out the VFL website and also follow us on Twitter at VFLABC. We look forward to your company every Saturday live from 1 for the Peter Jackson VFL on ABC 1.
Through VFL.com.au, this is the Peter Jackson VFL podcast.
Welcome back to the Peter Jackson VFL podcast. Michael leads in the chair with Anthony Stangetz this week as we look back and ahead to what lies ahead for the next round in the Peter Jackson VFL. But for now, we're going to be joined by one of the stars of Sunday afternoon. Anthony, this was the best game of the VFL season for mine so far. It had absolutely everything, and a desperate Northern Blues got across the line. And I might say, in no small part to the contribution of Tom Wilson, who had a terrific second half, and he's been good enough to join us on the line. Thanks for your time, Tom.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.
Super performance. I'll start with you in particular. It just looked like you came out after half-time and decided you were going to be the igniter to get everything going.
Yeah, no, look, it was at half-time, obviously Collingwood were a little bit on top of us, and we spoke about it as a team, just changing a few things around, and it was a really pleasing result to come out in the second half, and I think we kicked 10 goals to their 4 in the second half. So the way we turned it around in that second half was really pleasing.
It felt, from a broadcast point of view, there was just a whiff of something a little bit extra in the air. Was the build-up during the week, did it feel a little different to any other game, or was it just heads down, bums up, and try and get the job done?
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, our game against Geelong last week, we were really disappointed as a group in our efforts. So we were really keen to bounce back, and obviously we had a pretty solid week on the training track, and Collingwood are a very good side, so we were pretty keen to show that we can mix it with them and mix it with the best of the comp. So as I say, it was a good result.
And Tom, you had a few guys in your side, being former Magpies in Jack Anthony and Cameron Wood, that would like to play out of their skins a bit more, and definitely amongst the best players in Sunday's game.
Yeah, both of them were really good. Obviously, Woody in the ruck, I think he ended up with something like 67 hit-outs or something like that. And Jack down back was really solid for us. He's come back after injury, and both of them put a really good foot forward, and obviously Woody putting good claims for a call-up.
Was it a bit confusing for some of the midfield with having Matty Watson down in the forward line, kicking 3 goals, performed well, but when you look down there thinking that you might be going to the wrong end for the known defender?
Yeah, it was an interesting move by Lukey Webster, but it paid dividends, and Watto yesterday was sensational for us. Obviously, Collingwood are a really good pressuring team, and I think they're number 1 in the VFL for forward 50 or forward half tackles. So to have that get-out kick and have that representation with Watto down the line obviously helped us yesterday.
At about the 12 and a half, might have been the 14-minute mark of the last quarter, after being a couple of goals up, you were headed. Collingwood looked like they had all the momentum, and you were able to kick on and go away with it. Was there just a feeling of steel amongst the group, or was what were you thinking at that stage? Because it looked like they were really coming.
Yeah, and credit to our boys. I suppose through the year we've been challenged on a number of occasions, and we've been able to sort of thick fat and fight through it a little bit. And, Bendigo was one where, we just grinded away and were lucky to get away with the win, but we'll take that. And Williamstown, I think round one, we're at one stage there, we were 37 points down and got over the line. So we're one thing we do, and we know we are capable of, is always fighting out to the end. So again, we proved that yesterday by getting ourselves back into the game and getting ourselves in front, which is really pleasing.
And Tom, you jump back into the top 8. You're up in 7th position. The percentage is not the best, but you're really going to be tested on the run home. You're facing North Ballarat, Werribee, Williamstown, Port Melbourne and the Box Hill Hawks. So if you end up in that top 8 at the end, you'll certainly earn the position.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's a bit of an old cliche, but 1 week at a time. And we know that each game from here on in is very important for us. And, no more so than North Ballarat this week. They've been in terrific form, and it's going to be a massive challenge for us. But we'll reset, we'll recover, get ourselves right, and go up there hopefully and get the same result as we did on the weekend. And
one of the other keys to the Northern Blues this season, I think, probably been the form of Nick Graham, and he's probably been plying his trade week in, week out at VFL level, and we'd love to be seeing him up there for Carlton in future weeks.
Yeah, Nick Graham's been really good. He's been really consistent. He's obviously had a few things that he's needed to work on, but credit to him, he's gone back and done that. And he's getting really good numbers each week. And I dare say, as you say, he's probably not too far away. But credit to Nick for his work rate and his effort. I mean, yesterday, Collingwood watched him pretty closely, and it was something new to Nick, I think, and he worked through it pretty well. So, I dare say that if he keeps going the way he's going, then he'll be definitely close.
And another player who'll be hoping to regain his spot is Jeff Garlett. He had a quite sort of day up until three-quarter time, but just exploded in that last term. He was everywhere all of a sudden. He'd kicked an early goal and got a bit of momentum going for you. Was there any acid put on him at three-quarter time, or was it a message of support? It was not even mentioned, and he just took it on himself?
Yeah, no, there wasn't any acid, so to speak, that was put on him. He sort of just got us going, as you say, in that last quarter, kicking that goal. And as a group, we just sort of jumped on board, and hopefully, we tried to ride it out, and Collingwood fought back. But as I say, Jeffrey was sensational in that last quarter. I think he ended up with 14 in the last quarter, so he really got us going early. And luckily we were able to get away with the result, but we did.
And Tom, how have you viewed your own season? Just missed the one game this year, but been a regular part of that senior lineup.
Yeah, look, I've just been speaking closely to the forward line coach, Nick Burke, and Nick Daffy and Luke Webster, obviously, Robbie Marinara as well. So I've just been trying to work on a few things. Obviously, work rate's a massive key to my game, and just trying to get to as many contests as possible. So that's all I've been really trying to focus on. And so far, so good. So hopefully I can finish off the season strong and we can end up playing some finals footy.
Well, it certainly worked a treat on Sunday afternoon. It was a terrific performance by you and the team. The Northern Blues sit 7th position in 28 points, so they're every chance to be at the pointy end of the season after a couple of gutsy wins. Tom, thank you very much for your time. We wish you all the best for the rest of the year.
Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.
Tom Wilson from the Northern Blues joining us there. We're going to take a short break and have a look to what lies ahead in the Peter Jackson VFL right after this.
Hi, Darren Boyd here. Catch me and the rest of the Grandstand team every Saturday from 1 on ABC 1 for live coverage of the Peter Jackson VFL. Each week we broadcast a featured VFL game ad-free. Plus we look at the other state leagues and speak to a number of special guests. We've got every angle covered. For details of ABC's upcoming matches, check out the VFL website and also follow us on Twitter at VFLABC. We look forward to your company every Saturday live from 1 for the Peter Jackson VFL on ABC 1.
Through VFL.com.au, this is the Peter Jackson VFL podcast.
Welcome back to the Peter Jackson VFL podcast, and we're going to take a look ahead now. We say it every week, but round 14 has all sorts of possibilities in the VFL. Anthony Stangetz is here, and Anthony, we'll start with the Pies and Werribee. fair to say neither team can afford to lose.
Oh, neither can, and it was a matter of the walking wounded in the final term last week for Collingwood. Suckling, a reoccurrence of the hamstring. Clark was off. They had Ben Reid with a corky to the calf, and they're going to need to get back on track because they're sitting in sixth spot. Werribee's in fourth. Werribee would be looking at that top two, the chance to try and get that double chance. I know they're in the four at the moment, but also a possible home final, and nothing more than John Lamont would enjoy having a home final to start off the legendary final series later this year. This will be a great game. Ben Warren in some great form. He's headed to the top of the goal-kicking ladder, and I think in the tools department might be where Werribee have an advantage. Matt Jack Dorr in some pretty good form last week, feeding his midfield. Jared Moore just loves these sort of conditions at this time of the year. He'll be a hard man to stop, and for Collingwood, I think they're missing a few of their key players. Kyle Martin didn't play last week, and a few others were missing. Nick Maxwell, you don't know whether he's going to go to the AFL or stay at VFL level. Probably thinking AFL, but this will be a great game. And the Tigers on a roll at the moment, just climbing the ladder.
All right, that game, a 1 p.m. start at Vic Park. This one's a beauty. 1:10 Victoria University Oval. This is going to be a sensational game. Footscray in red-hot form hosting the Box Hill Hawks.
Oh, you would think that this will be one of the biggest crowds that they get to Whitten Oval throughout the year. If not, if you can't make it out there, tune to ABC TV from 1 o'clock Saturday. This will be an epic encounter. It's almost the master and the apprentice with Box Hill, the reigning premiers, and Footscray on their 7-game winning streak. And Dave Mirror went off in the second half last week for Box Hill, so it'll be interesting to see whether he pulls up for this game because they'll need him. Firepower has been the key for the Western Bulldogs. They're the best offensive team so far this year in the VFL, performing very well, are hard to stop, and Box Hill will need to bring their A game to bring that winning streak to an end for the Bulldogs.
A month ago, this may not have looked all that appetising, but Essendon have really come hard in the last 4 weeks. They're in some terrific touch. They travel to North Port Oval to take on the Borough. It's 9th versus 2nd, but I don't think it'll play out as easy as that.
No, not at all. And one of the keys will be the man that we chatted to earlier on in the podcast, Al Kefford. He's in great form, 22 goals for the year, making his way into the top 10. And both teams will really have those forwards that they've got to be aware of. Dan Connors, 5 goals. He's been in great form since his return from injury. They are missing a few forwards at the moment. Port Melbourne, Julian Rowe on the sidelines. Josh Scipione was also on the sidelines last week. So they're looking for new options in their forward line. They're blooding some of the players coming up. Hugh Sandilands played his first game last week in the unusual role as a forward, but equipped himself pretty well, and he's another player that will be hard to stop. This will be a great game. Essendon needs this win to keep in contact with those top 8 teams. Port Melbourne too needs the win so they don't drop out of the top 4.
2 p.m. start for that one, as is the game between Bendigo and Casey. Are the Gold any chance to get win number 1 this weekend?
Well, I think they'd be priming themselves for this win. Looking at Casey's form over the last month, it's been pretty disappointing. A loss to Richmond in the last round, and Bendigo's had the break. They'll be looking forward to coming back from that break. They had all the emotion of saying that it'd be their final season in the competition. They've had a couple of weeks to think about it now, and I think they'll be primed and ready for this encounter. So they challenged the Northern Blues, who were the last team to head up to the QEO, and I think Casey's really going to have to bring their A game to take on the Gold, because the Gold will be desperate for a win to finish off their time in the VFL.
All right, the Cats on Saturday night, 7:30 start, and they're at Simmons Stadium hosting the Tigers. So I dare say there'll be some real talent running around on Saturday evening at Simmons Stadium.
Yeah, they will head down there for a double-header clash throughout the day. AFL Victoria Country taking on Vic Metro in the afternoon, the best of local competition football. So that kicks off at 4 o'clock if you can get there early. Otherwise, watch the game on aflvic.com.au. But this will be a great encounter. Richmond returned to form last week. Geelong, well, you just can't judge their form at the moment. that finals position's slowly slipping away for them, and Richmond are desperate to make up the couple of games and 20% that they're falling behind 8th spot at the moment. This will be a great contest. It's not going to be an easy one for Geelong, but it depends which Cats team turns up. Was it the team that took on Footscray last week and gave up 10 goals to start, or the one that belted the Northern Blues the week before? Yeah,
an intriguing game, that one, no doubt about it. Looking towards the bottom half of the 8, this is another massive contest. The Roosters were looking in some pretty good touch before they went to Werribee last week, and the Northern Blues, we just heard from Tommy Wilson, they'll be feeling pretty cock-a-hoop about their performance against the Pies.
Yeah, they will, and the Roosters want to return to the winners list. They got dumped from the top 8. The Blues are in there. An important game for the Blues to try and create a bit of distance between themselves and teams outside of the 8, and in turn North Ballarat to actually maybe jump back inside of the top 8 at the end of the round. 2
p.m. start on Sunday afternoon at Eureka Stadium for that one. We head to Piranha Park next. It's Coburg hosting Williamstown, and Coburg just continue to try and gain something out of every week that they play, and another opportunity to take on one of the better sides in the competition.
Yeah, and Peter German will be looking forward to taking on his old Chargers. He'll have an intimate knowledge of the Williamstown team. And Williamstown not playing much VFL football. They had a bye last week. They got a bye the following week, and this is about their only game in a month in the VFL competition, concentrating on the Foxtel Cup, which they won their way through to on July 22. This will be a good contest, and I think for Williamstown, their ever-changing lineup from Foxtel Cup to VFL home and away, they'll get the full lineup back. They had a very youthful lineup playing in the Foxtel Cup, and I think there'll be a few emotions running through for both teams on this game on the weekend, especially with the coach going up against the old Chargers.
I dare say Williamstown will be thrilled that they're just getting in the car to go to this one after the challenges. Getting to Perth.
WA.
Now, Sandringham in the last game of the round, Trevor Barker Beach Oval, they host Frankston. 2 p.m. start on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, Sandringham, they let slip a good opportunity in the first half up against Port Melbourne last weekend. They suffered a few injuries in the second half, but lacked a few targets. They've had a few players come back in recent weeks, and this is a game, if they want to play finals football this year, that they need to beat Frankston for the second time this year, like they did earlier on in the year. Frankston probably had their chances earlier on in their first round encounter, but for Sandringham, if they're serious about playing finals, they need to win this week, and they need to win strongly, because percentage is going to be a key towards the end of the season.
Yep, they're all important games. Don't worry about that. 4 points and percentage going to play a massive part as we continue the run into the finals action of 2014. Thank you for your work again, Anthony.
Thank you, Leesy, and thanks for helping out over recent weeks. Peter Mercado's back next week from tennis duties.
We're in much safer hands come Monday. Don't worry about that. Thank you to Al Pefford, who joined us from the Bombers. Also to Tom Wilson from the Northern Blues.
And just a reminder, you can now get the podcast on iTunes. So not only on SoundCloud, but also search the iTunes store via AFL Victoria and listen to our dulcet tones on a weekly basis. Subscribe and listen to the iTunes version of the podcast.
Magnificent things happening behind closed doors at AFL Victoria and on the ground as well. Don't miss any of the action this weekend. This is Michael Leake signing off for another week in the Peter Jackson VFL podcast.